18th Jackson County Commission work session to order. Have our, guess I'll do our roll call. Mr. Guthrie. Present. Mr. Ladwell. Present. And I'm present, so we do have a quorum. The other two commissioners have to be out tonight, out of town and other events going on. But we wanted to continue with our community meetings. We feel it's important to get the information out there. So we'll move on. I have our invocation by Mr. Porter and our pledge by Mr. Guthrie.
Lord God, our Father, we're blessed to be here today and to meet in this wonderful country where we can meet without any fears that will be interfered with. We're so thankful for these rights and these privileges that we have. We pray that we'll always protect them. We're so thankful for the men and women in the armed services that continue to protect our freedoms for us. God, we pray you'll be with them and their families as they serve and are in harm's way. Watch over us all, guide us and direct us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have, I'd like to add one thing to the agenda regarding our election systems. Probate judge had something he wanted to discuss or recommend. Any other changes before we proceed? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda with that one item? Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay. All right, so, Judge?
Absolutely. Y'all know Greg, got familiar with Greg Woodard that works for ES&S that supplies the ballots and machines and everything for the elections. He came up, I believe it was last week, and they've got something new, and caught my attention just one of these different ones. You know, you hear people talk about what's the ballot going to read. You trick people, it's worded where you don't know the answer yes or no. With all that being said, they've got a new program that they can put on the internet, the ballot. Once we sign off and approve the ballot, they can log on to their website, the county's website, my webpage, to a link that'll take them to the ballot, and they can read. A person can read the ballot how it is. It's basically a sample ballot that you can see at your pleasure. You print it off. I believe you print it off. Don't hold me to that. But next year when they do it, you'll have different elections with the commission doing the House. You know, we've got 2 congressional districts in Jackson County. We've got 2 House districts in Jackson County. So you actually put your address into it, and it shows the ballot that you're going to vote. So I live on the other side of the county, so if I put my address into it, the next time there's a House election, it'll show the District 22, I think, 22 race, whereas Matthew will show you the District 23 ballot. So it's really neat. It's not that much money. I think it's charged per machine. It's going to cost our county about $400 per election to do that. We got to sign a contract. We brought a contract up. There's a $5,000 startup fee that's waived for 5 years. The contract's a 5-year contract, $1,000 a year for 5 years. But that's waived. So all we're going to be looking at is $400 per election to do that. I don't know if you're interested or not, but I thought it was neat, especially just listening to people with this referendum. You don't know how the ballot's going to be worded. You don't know how it's going to look like. It would give people an opportunity. Now, it's only going to be available, I think, for about 3 weeks prior to the election. So, you know, it's not going to happen until the ballot's approved. So that's something I think we got a contract back at the courthouse. If y'all just want to look at it, just think about it and see. I mean, it's not anything you're going to get right now, but I thought that was pretty neat to give people a chance to look at the ballot and know how it was. In the past, I have had teachers that wanted a machine so that the seniors could do their own election. And you have a presidential election or governor's election. So this might be a neat way for them to have an election. You know, they could pull it up on the computer, you know, at school, and then the students could elect. And you know, I guess they do that with other future classes and things. So it's something that's neat. You know, if you want to think about it, I could have Greg come back and show you kind of how it works if you want to. I didn't tell him that y'all were interested. It's not why I brought the contract. He just brought it just so that everybody could look at it if you were interested. So if you we'll try to have him come back one day, when y'all are around, that's fine. And so you look at it, but I thought it was pretty neat.
I get a copy of that to you. Was there a link that we could go to?
No, it was on his,
Okay.
it was just on, he could get to it through through the company's website. But, they've got a little demo they can have, you both favorite car manufacturer, but I mean, it's pretty neat, the fact that you can get on it, and,
You get a lot of questions about what the ballot looks like.
Absolutely.
What's going to be on the ballot, and this would be a way, as opposed to picking up a paper ballot, it'll be online, and anyone can go on there and look at it.
and, they always bring us some sample ballots. I know candidates do a lot of sample ballots, but it's really hard to give those out to everybody. We keep them in the courthouse, we try to give them to everybody. Not everybody thinks they want one at the time until you see somebody. So you can get on a smartphone, you get on a computer, whatever you want to do.
Have any questions? I'll get the contract to them, and then if we can get it.
Like I say, it wouldn't be available until after that ballot was approved. So it's not like it's something that would be up in 2 weeks. I mean, you guys got to approve the ballot, I got to sign off on the ballot, and then it would be up. So if you want Greg to show it to you, if y'all want to see it, I'd be glad to. It's pretty neat.
Any questions? All right. Thank you, Judge. Okay, that's the only thing that we had to discuss tonight as far as our commission work session goes, so we'll move straight into the community meeting. And before we get started, I'll kind of go about the sales tax before we do that. Do you have anything? If I can find what I do with my paperwork. And I think most people here have heard this about 100 times, but I'm going to go over it again. That's why we do these community meetings, because we want folks to understand what, where we're coming from with the sales tax. We want to hear any issues, concerns that you may have, or questions about not just the tax, but anything that we've got going on. So I'll quickly go through some of the points that we've gone over, and then we'll open it up for discussion, questions, anything that you have regarding that. So one of the big things that we're trying to push this, obviously, is due to our budget situation that we've faced over the past several years. I think this has been something that's been long in the making, but we came into a budget deficit that was upwards of $1.4 million. There's been a lot of different numbers thrown out there, but we came from that big number down to $350,000 this last year, and in so doing, we cut over 20% of our general fund budget to get where we're at right now. So we've made a lot of cuts. We've done that with nearly 16 full-time staff, reduction in staff, tried to eliminate waste anywhere that we can find that waste, reduction in contract expenditures, and just general changes in the way we do business. We don't just write checks just because that's what's been going on for the past however many years. We're trying to really analyze and look at all the expenses that we have. And we'll be meeting more with employees in the future, but we try to, and we'll encourage, if there's any waste that we know of or anyone knows of, we need to address that and try to cut out any waste, because we believe in responsible fiscal government. As we've said a lot, the county receives no sales tax at this point. That's something that we've had a little bit of difficulty getting folks to understand. The county does not get any of the current sales tax. You've got 4% going to the state, 2% going to education between the county and the city, and then depending on what's in the different communities, I think in Stevenson it's 3%, is that correct? So the county gets nothing on that. We get no lodging tax. So, we have a group of fishermen come in for one weekend, they stay in our hotels, they go to Walmart, they go to a restaurant. We don't get anything off of that. We get, when they go pump something from the gas station, we get a little bit of what they pump from that gas pump. But other than that, we don't get anything additional to help operate county services. I've actually renewed my driver's license today and paid my $36.25 for that license, and $1.50 of that $36.25 comes to the county to help us operate. And the point in that number is to explain that when you go to the courthouse and you buy tags and you get your driver's license and you do property tax, the county doesn't get all those dollars. Those dollars are being split up between a lot of agencies, and when you really look at it, the dollars that the county gets is a very minimal amount from those. And the reason all this is important, we feel like, is because we want folks to know what revenue is coming into the county. It's very little revenue that's coming into the county. The biggest portion we receive is property tax, and that's a small portion when you look at the big scheme of things. Our gas tax revenue, we've talked a lot about road paving. I'll mention it here again in a little bit, but our gas tax revenue has dropped $300,000 from 2011, so we're down $300,000 in gas taxes. That's the only way that we support our paving processes is through that gas tax right now. We receive $500,000 of federal funds for road paving each year, which we pay 4 miles of roadway. Last year, we paved 8 miles of roadway with our local funds, so a total of 12 miles. That's not sustainable, but let's say we were able to even to sustain the 12 miles we've been doing. It would take us 90 years to get back to the roads we paved last year. And we know that roads aren't going to last that long, so we have to make a decision as to whether those roads, we need to start making those roads gravel or dirt as opposed to keeping them paved, because we don't obviously have the ability to keep them up to par at that rate. Cost of paving with asphalt ranges from $110,000 to $130,000, and cost of paving with tar and gravel is from $40,000 to $50,000. If you see a road being paved with asphalt, it's being paid for by federal funds. That's not dollars that local tax dollars. That's federal tax dollars or state tax dollars. If you see anything going down with tar and gravel, that's what we're paving with our local dollars. And again, last year it wasn't much with 8 miles. This year we actually weren't able to do any local paving with the dollars because we used up our surplus fund for the federal projects and for the local paving we did last year. So that's a really quick and dirty of some of the things that we do get. Some folks ask, why don't you raise property tax as opposed to sales tax? From the calculations we've looked at, it would take a 10 mil property tax increase in order to equal the same amount of dollars that we get from the sales tax. Additionally, a sales tax benefits from folks that come through Jackson County, not just from the citizens in Jackson County. So when we have folks that are bass fishermen or whoever else that comes into Jackson County, folks that come into the TVA Service Center, all those folks are participating in that sales tax, whereas a property tax, that's not the case. With a sales tax, you get growth. Part of the reason we are where we are is because property tax, there's been some slow growth over the years, but it's not been the same kind of growth that you would see from a sales tax if we have that type of asset. With a property tax, a business comes in, most of those businesses, or all of those businesses' property taxes that go to the county are abated, so we don't see the funds from that. You may see some new houses built, and we'll see a few dollars come from that, but again, the amount is small compared to if you have a sales tax and that same business comes into town, you're going to see a boost in your property tax due to, hopefully, if we work towards higher paying jobs and things like that. You'll see your boost in sales tax much quicker than you would see that boost in property tax. So that's a quick, like I say, quick run through. I do want to say that the major portions of county revenue come from the 7.5 mil property tax that we have, as well as the TVA in lieu of tax, which we're all familiar is going down and changing. And after that, it's these small few fees that we get for driver's license and things like that. That doesn't even account for, I think, 20% of our budget, 15% of our budget, something like that. So it's a small portion compared to the full picture. What we want to use this sales tax for. Obviously, as we've talked a lot about the roadways, as you get out in the county and even within the city of Stevenson, I know we have several county roads, I believe, correct, within the city of Stevenson. Our responsibility to maintain, but we've seen road projects out in the county where these roads are falling apart, and of course we know that we have to maintain that, or we have to come up with some other solution for maintaining, which would be putting those roads to dirt, as we've said. So a big portion of this would go towards the funding for maintenance of county roads. Support for provision of resource officers in schools. Now, I'm not real familiar with this school as far as resource officers. Does Stevenson supply? So that would be, now we won't have a resource officer in every school, but to have those resource officers available, have an officer here that can travel maybe between 2 or 3 schools would be very beneficial, and I would assume, hopefully, we'd like to see that. I know we've heard a lot about that since we've been in office. about the supply of those resource officers. So you're providing a mechanism or a support in the school systems, but you're also providing more support for the sheriff's department, whereas right now, at this particular time, I don't know how many deputies we have on the road right now, probably four out in this entire county. We have 4 deputies on the road right now. So if we can provide for more deputies throughout the county, then we can provide for some support for the limited number of deputies that we have out there right now. So it's a twofold response there in being able to provide resource officers for our schools. Support of fire departments in Jackson County. Recently, there have been some funding changes with how their property tax is distributed, and due to that, several fire departments throughout the county are going to see reduced funding in the coming years. In addition to that, the TBA in lieu of tax, well, I don't think that's affected them negatively, correct? Not yet. And this new bill could possibly affect fire departments negatively, which is still to be seen. But even with that funding change, a lot of fire departments, if something doesn't happen funding-wise, a lot of fire departments, as I understand it, will have to close or be in dire straits. If these fire departments can't maintain their provided service, that affects ISO ratings, which affects insurance rates and so on and so forth. So not only is it important from that aspect, but we feel it's important to support these folks that, they volunteer their time and volunteer their efforts to protect us in a lot of cases, not just in cases of fire, but a lot of times emergency calls. When cases of bad weather, they support us there. So these folks are volunteering their time and supporting us, and I think it's important that we give a little back to support them as well. Assist in community, industrial, and business development throughout the county. This year, in fact, I think since the time we've been here, Jackson County has not put any dollars into industrial development. We've had a few dollars that we could put into industrial development if the right business came along, but to this point, we've not done that, and once those dollars are gone, they're gone. We have no other source of providing for things like, and we have put some money into water projects, but strictly getting an industrial industry here by putting incentives. We want to support water projects, sidewalk projects, sewer, gas, downtown revitalization projects, any type of improvement projects that we think is going to help our standard of living and help recruit industry is a big part of this. Now, in the TBA in lieu of tax bill that's being presented, there is some money that will be set aside for that. Those dollars are going to be a little more strict towards, I think, and there's some debate to be had on that, to be set towards direct industrial development, whereas the dollars that we want to put into this will be more for water projects or things that will enhance the likelihood of an industry coming or enhance the quality of life so that industries and businesses will want to locate here. And then the final portion of this would be to provide the funds to shore up our remaining budget deficit and do some of the things that need to be done. So that a list of 5 different kind of key areas that we want to put these dollars towards to support county government. Now, that's the basic gist of it. I do want to make a point. What did I want to make a point on? You guys have anything to add?
I think you covered it all.
We've been saying this a lot of times over a lot of different weeks, so we're trying to, I guess, get the key points out there, but we'll go ahead and open it up for questions, and hopefully I'll think of some of the other things I wanted to add to that here in just a minute. So questions or comments or on this or anything that we've got going on?
What did the resource officer supposed to do? My kids went to school when KK was here, and all he did, make a speech every once in a while in the assembly and sit in his office, according to the kids. And that's money blown. We see industrial development, we see it falling down between here and Scottsboro every time we go. How's putting another $1 million going to get somebody in?
What do you mean falling down?
That building, sitting down there on the side of the road, got a Bible on it, been there for 10 years.
We have at least 2 industries that are here because of that building there. And,
Where are they?
KTNA is in the industrial park next to the TVA Recruitment Center, and another business in the Scottsboro Industrial Park that came to look at that business originally, that building originally.
And TVA came.
And TVA, well, because.
TVA went to Scottsboro, they
Right.
didn't in the county.
Right, but they had the spec building there. That spec building is a recruitment tool. We don't have an interstate here in Jackson County. And a lot of companies, that's their first question is, or one of their top questions is, do you have an interstate? Now, we have something that I think is just as good as an Interstate Highway 72, but that doesn't always qualify. I think that spec building has helped with the number of folks that have visited us. Obviously, you know, it's about landing someone, not just getting someone to visit here. We understand that. But last year, we had a good prospect, 500 jobs. They wanted to go in that building. The only thing I think that kept us from getting that, we were down in the final three, was Mississippi was able to pay for that industry to come. Now, we don't just need to outright buy an industry to come to Jackson County, but we need to be able to compete. We couldn't compete with Mississippi. We don't have the funds that they had stored up to make that happen. So it is important, if we want to get those jobs, and those would have been good paying jobs, 500 of them, you do have to put some money on the table sometimes. So that's why we feel it's important to have those funds available in that. As far as the resource officers, I don't know what was done in the past. What I can tell you is what a resource officer is supposed to do, and I think the sheriff would work to make this happen. That resource officer is supposed to be a part of your community in your school. They're supposed to be involved with the students, be able, be someone that the students aren't afraid and can come talk to if they see something that's going on. And one example of a principal told me somewhere in the county, he was telling me that there's an issue with a couple of parents, and things went sour anyways. The parent was on their way to the school to pick up the child, but they called the local police. We didn't have, I don't think it was a county cop, but it was the local police. Called that local police officer to come to that school, and when that person pulled into the driveway and saw that cop car there, they turned around. Now, would they have come in if the cop car wasn't there? We don't know, but it's a possibility that car deterred that person. So, there is, I think, a huge benefit to having those officers in schools.
How much would it cost to get a few volunteer teachers in RMU? Nobody know about except the superintendent and the principal.
To have them as
Security officer or whatever, it's part of their job. Some places are doing that.
that'd be something for the school board, if that's the route that they wanted to pursue. I mean, that's something that they could pursue. This is the route that we would be able to participate in. If there was something like that, I don't know how we would get deputies, I guess. What do you call it, reserves?
Reserves can't function without a full-time deputy.
Okay, so unless they were a full-time deputy, I guess, they wouldn't be able to respond.
You couldn't change the law? Didn't get the legislature to change the law?
That'd be a state law.
To make them peace officers, no, sir.
Well, not like it.
If you just make them security guards, yes, you can do that.
Well, not necessarily. We should call it security guards.
People don't want to do things like that these days because of liability issues.
I don't know. All I know about security guards is what my kids talked about when they were here.
There's things that he might have, averted happening just with his presence here. It's pretty big. We see it every day on the news. And I believe, this is my opinion, with resource officers in these schools, once school is out, look at the extra officers that we're going to be able to run patrol for our county by utilizing these officers is one thing that we're thinking also. If you avert one thing, you've done, we've done really well by providing them, in my opinion. It's not important to people unless it affects you directly. And we have to really think about, everybody as a whole rather than, just being individuals.
But have you ever published a budget? Y'all talk about how much you cut. I've never seen one, Mr. Glass. I've never seen one this paper.
We publish a budget every year, and
Where is it?
we published it with the Clarion and I think the Sentinel in the past. I'm not sure, have we provided a budget? We can provide one. The problem with the budget they get is, it's general, but I'll be glad to send you a little more specific
If you
budget.
just put it in Mr. Glass's paper,
Yeah, we will, if he'd be willing to print it, we'll be glad to give it to him.
think probably would, but I mean, we see in the paper, y'all were talking about digging the sidewalks up in Scottsboro and putting more down. You gave several $1,000s, somebody wanted to keep a useless wore-out bridge. And you say you've cut everything, but then we see all this, we haven't cut everything.
We've
How
not,
many things else?
The commission has not participated in saving that bridge.
Y'all got him $3,500 for the article in the paper.
It was a legislative delegation.
It was listed as a county commission. You did, I apologize.
Yeah, it was misprinted if it was listed as that.
the downtown project in Scottsboro is something, again, we feel is important.
Why? There's nothing wrong with the sidewalks that are there.
We participated in one at Bridgeport. Scottsboro's part of Jackson County. We participated there. We participated in one at Woodford.
Yeah, but what's wrong with the ones that are there? They're not wore out. Why would you want to dig them up and redo them?
Well, you know, if you got a chance to get $1 million grant, and your part, which I'm talking about the city, I'm not talking about the county, is $100,000, it would be crazy not to pursue it. That's what the revitalization grant's for.
I guess that's why we're $18 trillion in debt.
Probably so, but if it's available, somebody's gonna get it. We should be trying to participate and get that money as far as, I think. They got a grant to revitalize downtown. The inside of the square, a lot of people don't even know this. The outside belongs to the city of Scottsboro, the inside belongs to Jackson County. And that was just our part of participation with those sidewalks, was just the county's part.
But you've had in the paper that you have a $350,000 shortfall, yet you say you want a $3.3 million tax.
And
Why?
that's because of all the things, $350,000, let's say that, just like this TV and lieu tax bill, that'll give us the $350,000 and we can say we're done. But the current rate that we're paving roads, there's nothing else we can do to change that. We don't have the funds to increase the number of roads that we pave every year. So if nothing changes, we may be able to do eight miles of local roadway a year. So that's the huge portion of it. If we never want to, if we expect our employees to go for the next 30 years without a raise, then we can continue to stay where we're at on that as well. If we don't do anything for our fire departments, and you have several fire departments closed down, that's a portion of those dollars. So those 5 items that I talked about, that's why that extra money is in there. And half of it is for road paving. Another big chunk is to help the general fund so that you've got something that will grow in the future, and we won't have to come back to you and say, hey, give us another penny in tax, another, however many mills or whatever else.
How much of the property tax goes to fire departments? I know several years ago, it was voted on in the county, and so much of the property tax goes to fire department.
2 mills.
2 million.
Is that right?
Yeah, so if you have a $100,000 house, we give $20 a year.
And in that same $100,000 house, 60 of it, of whatever you pay, goes to the county to operate ours. Well, whereas, I think education has 10 mills. The state's the lowest. They're, just above that, but 2.5 mills. They're pretty low. And then if you live within the city of Stevenson, then that's where the majority of your property taxes go. And that's, I'll be glad, we will publish that budget and the revenues and expenditures, but until you sit down and really take a look and put a pencil to it, it's kind of sad how little revenue the county actually gets. And we've been expected to do all that we do with the amount of revenue.
I'll hush in a minute, but how, you say there was $1.4 million deficit, but the last commission said they were out of debt. I mean, what happened?
The debt was minimal. Debt is what we owe, people, obviously. The debt, there was not much debt, but what they were doing was spending well over what they were bringing in. So that was done through, like I said, there's a whole lot of waste in there. We found a whole lot of waste, at least probably $700,000 worth of waste. That was done with a number of raises that was done over the past few years. That was done with what we felt like we had too many people in certain departments, which is, we cut that back as well. So there are a lot of different things that were being spent over what was being brought in. So we cut as much of that out as we could without affecting, you know, the bottom line service. We feel like, you know, you can still go to the courthouse and you may have to wait in your tag line for 30 minutes or whatever, but that's no more than you had to before. Whereas if we have to cut any further, that wait's gonna go from 30 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours, or whatever the case may be. And, you know, again, services throughout the county are gonna have to be cut because that's just where we're at. We've cut our services as much as possible. And we've done that, like I said, through people and waste and contracts and,
Plus also, since we've been in office, some of these funds, the gas tax he mentioned a while ago, the TBA new money, you know, has dropped significantly compared to revenue that past people had to use. We've had to absorb $300,000 in gas tax, $200-something thousand in the TBA.
300.
300,000. You know, that's $600,000 that we no longer have just to maintain what we used to do 3 or 4 years ago. This gas tax it's not a pleasant thing. Nobody wants to just say, hey, let's increase the tax. This is going to be honestly about where we go from here, our future, our roads. We can't maintain our assets right now with the amount of revenue we've got. If you lay our roads, Jackson County roads, end to end, it'll go from Scottsboro, Alabama to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And you cannot maintain this stuff with the current revenue that we have. That's just it in a nutshell.
And
You know, you can own a house and pay your payment, but you can't repair it. Eventually, it's gonna fall down. You've got to have money to keep your house up, rather than just paying a mortgage. That's where we're at. Whether it's pleasant or not, if it's hard to swallow and it's hard to chew, I understand. But it's about maintaining the assets that we have got.
School resource officers, are they going to be sworn deputies, vehicles, so when they get through school, they can go and patrol?
Outside of the school. See, they actually go to ball games at night. So if they work 4 hours at the school, they may end up going to the ball game that night instead of that.
Something happens, they can be called out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's 4 deputies right now out in the county.
Cover 11 minutes.
I know what the county is, I suppose, that's a low number.
And that's if everybody's working. People sick or caught in on vacation.
We know how many we're looking at?
You know, there's 7 high schools in Jackson County. Some of them are relatively close in proximity. That could probably be covered by, you know, one deputy or 2. I don't know. We have been.
It's gonna cost $80,000 just to equip one day at the get there. Well, after that, it's cheap because you gotta buy a car to go with it.
if we can get 7 or 8, you know, going, that'd be a great place to be, I think.
You're up to $1 million, that's a third of what you're wanting.
Well,
Take a lot of money away from the roads.
That's the start. That's the get them started. After you get them started on, you're paying the salary. And of course, there'll have to be some funds set aside. So, you know, maybe the number's 5 or 6 to start with. But that's where, you know, once we see what revenue we're bringing, we're going to say this is how much we're able to do. Roads are the top priority. We will have deputies in schools. It's just the number of them. Obviously, we've got to continue to work on that. But we're going to have deputies in areas of the county where we don't have them right now.
That's the thing. I mean, we're going to have deputies spread out. That's in a corner. May really, really make a difference. Again, we talked about it earlier. Things are not important until it affects you personally. But somebody that's being affected, it's important to them. You know, to have a deputy there, you know, a few minutes quicker. Those things are just very important to me, I think. It's hard to believe.
Any questions or comments? We appreciate, I mean, if you have any other concerns or questions, please, I mean, that's why we're here.
I appreciate your comments, I appreciate your questions.
Well, I'm
Those
just
are
sorry,
things
I
that
talked,
need to
I
be
didn't
answered.
mean to talk so much.
No, those are things that need to be answered, and I really do appreciate you asking.
I guess the roads, and I don't know so much about the resource officers, but the deputies probably are two of them, about only two of the things you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
That,
And that's a lot of the bulk of the, the revenue that we're trying to create here is going to be for those two things.
And of course, the fire department,
Fire
thing, I don't
departments.
know how far out you live, but depending on what fire department services you, that can have a huge effect on you as well.
insurance and finance.
Yeah.
Well, if you see some of those, and I've talked with the association, but you let some of these fire departments close, and you're going to actually spend more in premium increases through your insurance than you will on the sales tax as an individual. Number one, you don't want to see them closed. They're responding to medical issues. They're not only firemen anymore. They're not coming out just when there's a fire. And someone there just a few minutes earlier can mean everything in the world to a family, to an individual. Those are things we really need to consider when we think about this.
It affects everybody in the county, so if the county fire department closes, then he still has to cover that area.
That's right.
That's taxes, so it means that resources from the cities and other parts of the county have to go to that area. So when you expect people in the city to still be there, they could be out in the county, further out in the county.
The response time with the fire departments and the sheriff's office would really, really increase if these fire departments close and some of them close. If you don't have resource officers in those schools, you may have one at North Sand Mountain, and the sheriff's got 3 patrolling the whole county that day. It could make all the difference in the world.
Would you pull him out of school to go?
If
We
For
would have to ask the
emergencies.
sheriff, but in an emergency, I would think you would, yes, sir.
Get warranted.
You get.
Well, I'm saying, well, that much.
The different monies that went to different places on property tax. Where, is that a breakdown of a business inside a city limit, town limit? If there's a business outside of a town limit, how is that money distributed?
For property tax or?
Well, you're talking about the sales tax.
Yeah, for inside the city, that's it. For outside the city, if we have a business just out in the county or not incorporated, it's 4 cents to the state, which, as I understand it, that goes towards state education, and then 2 cents towards county education. So that's all that's in the county. If you live outside of incorporated limits,
Is there
that's what
another
you
thing
pay.
in the county gas tax?
What's
Is
that?
not the gas tax you're talking
No,
about?
that's not. No, we have, I was looking at the gas tax numbers today, actually. It's kind of interesting how little we get of that. The state has 15, 16 cents, I think, in place, something like that. Our 3 cents brings as much as their 7 cent does, as much as their 9 cent does. So, we do have a 3 cent local tax that we use for materials, and that's where we do a lot of patching potholes and paving out of. But that 7 cents that the state has on there, we don't get 7 cents of it. We get a small piece of that, and of course, the state has to maintain their roadways also.
But you do have a 3 cent gas tax.
Local gas tax,
But people get confused if it's 3 cents a gallon. It doesn't matter
yeah. Right.
if gas is $3 or
Yeah.
it's just 3 cents a gallon. It's not
That's
a
$1 or
percentage.
$3.
Yeah. You still just get 3 cents. The higher it goes up, the less tax. Less people spend, less tax.
I've heard estimates that you said, one meeting that it's gonna be around $60 a person. That is not taking into account people from out of the county that are coming in to,
Oh, right.
buy goods here too. So $50 to $60 a person would be a rough estimate of what you would pay a year.
Yeah, that's just an estimate. I've calculated for my family, it's gonna be $30 a person. So, I think if you really get down to what you spend on taxable items, sales taxable items, it's gonna be a lot less. And just about all my purchases, I live in the city of Scottsboro, so anything I order is gonna be taxed at the Scottsboro rate. But anything I buy is taxed at that Scottsboro rate. If you live out in the county, and let's say you're building tool shop or whatever in the backyard, you're gonna be taxed, you know, if you have that stuff delivered, you're gonna be taxed at your county rate, so. So yeah, like I said, my estimate was $30. If we broke it up evenly across everybody in the county, it'd be $60, but that by no means takes into account all the fishermen and everybody else we have that comes in, and the portion they pay, so. I truly believe it's a lot less than that when you really get down to it. That's $60 a year.
Is there a bill pending, or did I dream this up about ordering over the internet, sales tax over the internet?
There's been a lot of talk about that, I don't know that there's anything at the state level, I don't know if you guys.
I think there is.
You're required to pay it now, people just don't.
It's there. Has it passed? No, I think it's going to be, but I read it recently.
That's been something they've talked about the past few years. I don't know what'll happen this year. It's something that would help, as you see a lot of folks move towards that, because thankfully, I think a lot of cities, and Bobby may know for Stevenson, is your sales tax stable or up from where it's been?
It's about stable.
So,
It usually was climbing a little bit.
and
We survived the sales tax.
that hurts a little bit, you know, the online sales, but as that becomes even bigger, it has a potential to hurt even more. So I think there's somewhat of a need for that to help cities and counties. Sales tax is, for anyone that receives it, is like he said, that's a huge way of how you survive.
Kind
Property,
of like Coke machines in schools.
yeah. Does that keep you going? There you go.
You know, I want to add something that the chief asked a while ago about what it would cost an individual with a 1 cent sales tax. Most Jackson Countyans spend around 34% of their income on housing. It's not applicable to a sales tax increase. Okay? Gas and transportation, they spend about 18%. It's not applicable to a sales tax increase. Insurance and pension, they spend about 11% of their income, not applicable to the sales tax increase. The things that are applicable, they're by choice. It's food and dining. The average person spends about 13%. That's applicable. But that's a choice. You eat at home, or you can choose to eat out. Clothing, you know, is about 3%. Some of your entertainment is applicable, some isn't. So you're not talking about, I hear this every day from some folks until you actually sit down and explain it. They automatically think the 1 cent tax is fixing to devastate them. Most of your income is not applicable to the sales tax increase. It just isn't. Really look at this stuff, and I'm glad Mr. Glass is here, but a lot of these things are not even going to apply for an increase. So I hope everyone really looks at this good and they understand that you're not talking about everything you do, everywhere you go, what have you. A lot of this stuff is not applying.
Would there be any appreciable amount of people that would go to either Kimball or Fort Wayne or wherever instead of because the lower salary? Y'all be higher in Tennessee, really.
I think you'll see a lot of folks, and I think some of this area, especially as you get up to Bridgeport, or if you're up in Bryan, or even on the west side, you know, Paint Rock Valley, a lot of folks go out of the county to do their shopping. And again, if we can invest money to get businesses here that you can shop at as opposed to out in Kimball, if we have a business here, I would think, and we saw it in Scottsboro back when they raised the penny sales tax, 2000 or 99, whatever it was. You know, there was that talk, we're just gonna go elsewhere to spend our dollars. But, you know, now they're up, who knows how much percent from that point in time. People, I think, will come back and spend their dollars at home. Most folks, did you know what our sales tax was before this discussion started?
Sure.
A lot of folks don't have a clue what the sales tax is, which is a shame. You know, folks should know what's going into fund their government.
And a lot of folks think Jackson County gets it and retains the sales tax, which we do not. We get nothing.
To answer your question, I think you'd see a little bit of that, but I would hope that as we educate and hopefully talk with folks, we would promote, buying here in Jackson County and buying local. We need to take pride. If we want the services, if we want roads to be paved the way they need to be paved, we need to buy our gas here. And I'm sure that's a portion of the reason why we're down $300,000 is because people say, well, I'm going to drive to Kimball to get my gas, or,
It's cheaper.
yeah, so,
It's cheaper, but you're also maintaining their
roadway.
services, and you're not maintaining Jackson County's, is the bottom line to it.
So it's very little I spend in Kimball. I've always been shopping home, but if we go out to eat, it's usually up in that direction. because
Sure.
There's not that much available in Scottsboro.
And that's,
And we hope that changes.
yeah.
It'd be really good.
It's understandable, folks are gonna travel out from time to time, but again, you look at the sales tax now, or if we're able, even if you're able to put that investment back in, just like the city of Stevenson, we have a few roads in Stevenson, but you may ask, what's the benefit gonna be? Well, if we can promote business development in Stevenson, or we can promote industrial development, that means ultimately more tax dollars for the city of Stevenson also, so they can better maintain your services, or services for those that live in it. So it's really, it helps everybody, it benefits everybody if we do manage this the right way. And I think we've got a good plan, put forward on where these dollars need to go.
Well, each city, no matter where they are, they get benefits, I know, from the sheriff's office. We cover all felony cases for every police department in the county, except Scottsboro. And we still house their prisoners that are felons. And so really no charge other than fee. So, they're getting the benefit from the sheriff's office anyway, each community is. And trust me, if you live in the Stevenson area, our narcotics unit lives out here. And if you see the paper, what they're doing, they're out here a lot. So, I mean, they're busy and they're getting some services from the county out here, trust me. All the papers that get served, local police department don't serve those, we serve them. All the subpoenas that get served, we serve them. All mental orders get picked up, cities will not pick them up, we serve them. Anything that comes out of the courts, we serve them, for no matter what city it's in.
They talk about cutting the highway patrol, would that be more on the deputies, or would that be the local police?
The highway patrol does nothing in the city limits. You can't stop and write tickets. For us, they work regs.
Yeah, that's
Out
what
in the
I'm
county.
saying.
If
So you just.
they do away with highway patrol, then somebody's got to work regs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, would that be more on the county, or would you just
Sure it
wait
would.
several hours for them to get there?
Several hours now. Shouldn't have to do. Because our deputies will stay at wreck sometimes 1 to 2 hours waiting on a trooper just to get their work.
Okay, I didn't know that, I didn't know whether the deputies were there or not.
Any other questions or comments?
I know right now there's no set percentages. If it does pass and a couple of years goes by, or that could be something that could change, that y'all say a certain amount of it's gonna go to the SROs, a certain amount's gonna go to the roads, general fund, fire department.
We'll set an amount, as we get closer to, we'll hash the numbers out a little bit more and try to set an amount of what's gonna go to what. The big question, we estimate it's gonna bring in the 3.3 million. Unless something drastic changes, that should be pretty close. So, the big thing is how much money are we gonna put in the pavement the first year? That's something that needs to be discussed. After you do that, then you can say this is how much is going towards the rest. I think we're gonna be able to fund the SROs pretty well. The big question is maintaining their vehicles. The sheriff's department used to have a fund they could do that with, but since we lost federal inmates, that's gonna be a hardship. So there'll have to be some money set aside for that too. So some of those details have to be worked out for us to really give us a say of this is how much is going to go to each one. But when, we'll do that very early on from the budget we pass in, for next year. If this passes, that budget will have, this is how much of it's going wherever. And we'll keep it going. That's the responsibility of the people to make sure it continues to go where they think it needs to go. It'll take us some time on the roadways, but if you should start seeing movement in the first couple of years, but if in 10 years you're thinking, the roads are the same way or worse, then, we're not doing what we need to be doing. But I don't think that's what you're going to see. We've got a lot of changes for public works coming, so from funds and from those changes, I think you're gonna see a much different, response in how we do that side of the job. Other questions, comments? Quiet back there?
Just this.
Just listen. Anything else? I do actually have a general fund budget, revenue and expenditure. It's just the very general, but if you want to look at it real quick, this is probably something like what we put in the paper. Doesn't give the details, but then we can go over any questions you may have if you want to look at it. Anything else? You know, we do this because we want to answer questions. And if after you leave today, you're still against the sales tax, at least we appreciate you taking the time to come out and understand why it is that we're wanting to do this. You may totally disagree and think this still isn't the answer, but at least, you know, you made some effort. And that we appreciate more than anything, you guys taking the effort to come out and understand a little bit about it. Now, hopefully you'll take away, maybe this is needed, and you know, put some support behind it, talk to some folks about it, but either way, we appreciate you joining us tonight and giving us some time to visit with you. The commissioners, we try to be as open as possible. So if you have any other questions or comments or concerns, if you hear something out in the street, someone says, well, this is how they do it now, or this is what they're going to get now, you get it straight from the horse's mouth. Just call us, ask us questions. You know, our sheriff here, our probate judge, the elected officials in the courthouse, we're all there available to answer questions for anything that comes up. So please don't hesitate to call up at the office, or if you're in, come by and visit us, you know, ask any questions that you may have. That's what we're trying to get as much information out there as possible. And we're not afraid to share. Like I said, we can look at that or any other question you have. We want to put it out there because we can't feel like we can ask you for more tax dollars if we're not willing to show you where they're going right now. So with that, anything else?
You feel most people's already about your mind that when nobody come up? Just
I'm afraid most
low
people.
information voters.
I think most people don't understand how important it is to take the time to understand, you know, what their government is doing. That's my maybe blunt or whatever opinion of it, but you know, unfortunately, folks don't realize how important this is to them. Whether this was about the sales tax or anything else, it's still your government is working for you and trying to, you know, put that information out there for you. And it upsets me more that folks may complain and not make the effort to understand. Because, again, we're trying our best to put it out there. We've got this video, which will be posted online. We've got our TV interviews. We've got another video, TV thing that we do. If you have farmers or charter or the co-op, you can watch that show that comes on. We participate once a month to try to talk about things going on in Jackson County. We've got a radio show that we do, so we're trying our best to get the information out there. Obviously, we have good participation from the newspapers to all our meetings, so we're doing our best to get it out there. It's just up to the people to pick it up and read it or look at it or come to the meeting.
On the side note, you know, all three of the papers had this meeting in Macedonia. For several weeks, they had it in Macedonia.
Oh, right. We had to change, went out up till when?
I know it was the last paper, I believe, last week.
Was it? So maybe.
I made a post on the Facebook page, and the picture had more Jackson, they also in Macedonia. I saw it in progress that day that it was Macedonia.
Was it? Well, that's.
I figure that's why some of the turnout's not here tonight, but
We may have a lot of Macedonia. We may need to go up there real quick. We changed it about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We changed it because of Mr. Miller had to be out of town, but we did originally plan it. We'll find out. I guess we'll hear about it tomorrow. That's not good.
We will be getting back in this area before, well, maybe in Bridgeport, we will be back in this area. So if somebody guesses, they can always come.
Yeah, we'll have at least one in Bridgeport and one in possibly Hollywood before it's over with. Anything else? All right. Thank you all for coming, and With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.